guys, it's Lily Mae coming to you from Las Vegas.
And it's Liz coming to you from Maine.
I am so excited for today's episode. We have a lot of new things planned, and I'm so excited to share the interview with you guys too.
Yeah, this interview is really good, and also this is pre-recorded because my practice got pushed back, which is fine. Happens all the time. So, this interview was really good, though. Definitely one of my favorites. And the person we interviewed is her story is very, very, very cool, and it's very inspiring. And I'm really happy that she was open enough to share some of the stuff that she went through.
Yes, we interviewed Olive. She is an actress, and she was so inspiring, and I was so honored to talk to her some and get to interview her.
So I hope you guys enjoy.
Hey, Olive, thank you so much for coming on today to do an interview with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Lily and Linda Rose. How are you guys?
I'm doing good.
I'm good.
I'm so excited to be on your show, so thank you again for having me.
Thank you. We're so honored to have you on. For the first question tonight, I wanted to go ahead and see if you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey as an actress.
Okay, so my name is Olive Chiacchia. I'm from a little town in Massachusetts called Hopedale, and I've actually loved acting since I was a kid. So I did a lot of theater growing up, and my mom always says that the first time she saw me acting, I was on stage singing a song called Babyface when I was in preschool. I was 3 years old, and then it was like that performance and that moment, she was like, oh my gosh, she's got something. And I just fell in love. It's almost like when you get out there and you start performing, everything just doesn't matter. It's just my favorite thing in the world. So fast forward a little bit, I had kind of a rough upbringing. I spent a lot of time in different homes and a lot of programs and stuff. So I didn't really get a lot of acting, except I did do some theater in high school, but I changed high schools a lot. So, as a kid that grew up a lot in the system and changing schools, I didn't really get that integrated or that connected to a specific acting teacher. But, I won a few awards, and I was like, I do think I have a knack for this. Fast forward a couple of years, I go to college, and I feel like I might be one of the only people to ever say this, but I regret not going to school for theater. Because, a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't need to. But I think it would have just been really, really great. I'm in school now for it, of course. I take classes and stuff. But I didn't have the confidence to pursue what I wanted to do. So actually, I also wanted to be as a side note, I was like, I kind of wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't even have the confidence to be a teacher. You really need that confidence to make it in this field. So I just became a therapist. I worked in a bunch of therapeutic settings. I was the director of a center, and I always found myself just making my way back to the performing arts in some way or another. I got picked up by an agent starting doing some runway, and then I ended up a lot in the model industry. And then from there was doing a little bit of music videos and commercial. And I was like, no, this is it. So fast forward to the pandemic, and I was about to, I wanted to leave my role in the mental health world anyways. I was really done with it. I spent so much time as a kid getting services, and being in the system that I was like, this is the last place I want to be. I don't want my life to be spent around sick people. And I want to, pursue acting and modeling. But I realized the model world was not really going to work for me. I've struggled a lot with eating disorders and stuff. So it wasn't going to be a good environment. And I took my first acting class. In that first acting class, I met Renee. And we all know Renee Yaworski, the wonderful, multi-talented producer who works on this network. And, she saw something in me, her manager did. We just kind of connected a lot. And it was just from there, I studied, and bam, 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 started to really find myself in this creative industry and started to finally believe that I could be more than, what I was dealt as a child. I didn't have to live that victim life anymore. And I could just really create abundance around a life as an artist. So I've been doing a lot of sitcom pilots. I've been hired for 3. And the most recent one is, it's funny, I've played almost the same role. So I think I'm quite well branded at this point. And the last one I did was the one that was in the news with Aaron Carter, where I played his girlfriend. So that was Group, and Group is a sitcom about mental health and these four best friends that meet in therapy. So at this point, I actually haven't been doing it very long, but I've had some pretty awesome green lights and success. So I'm in the process of moving full-time to Los Angeles.
Wow, that's so cool. Thank you so much for talking to us about your experiences. And it's so cool to hear about some of your new upcoming projects too.
Yeah, I know that acting has been something that I've always kind of been interested in, especially theater and everything. And my grandmother has always been telling me that I should probably get into it. So I'm very happy to have you on today, as it's something I'm interested in. And I'm happy to hear your feedback on the question.
Well, that makes me so happy to hear. I'm so happy that I have the opportunity to speak to, like, you know, the younger. I feel like I'm still young, so I feel weird saying that, but like to younger generations about really not giving into anyone else's dream when you need to really know yourself enough to follow your own and have enough confidence and, you know, find the support that you need to really follow that, because I believe there's a reason it's in your head. You know, I don't think that I was just born with this like absolute drive to be an actor. Even when I don't want to do it, I'm like, this is it. And that doesn't exist for no reason. You know, I think that exists because that's really what my path's supposed to be here. So follow that drive and keep going.
Oh, absolutely. It's such an important topic. I'm terrible at acting, but I have to practice performing for my music and stuff. So it's super cool to be able to talk to an actor like you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you know, music, acting, it all goes hand in hand, performing arts.
Absolutely.
Watching, before I do an interview here with Lily, before interviewing someone, I would watch interviews about of a professional interviewer interviewing someone in the same industry. And I was watching one earlier, and the big thing that a lot of actors and actresses talked about was booking their first role. And I wanted to know what that process was like for you.
Oh my God, booking your first role is like the hardest thing. I'm sure you saw that they're all like, oh my God. Like, so, you know, it took me, so I really started acting during the pandemic, but I didn't start auditioning right away because I was like, I know I'm not ready. I've done so much theater just through the years, because like it was kind of related to runway in a way. Like I was somehow crossing over in that way. I was like Lucy and Dracula. I've done like a few off-Broadway things that were really fun, but like film wasn't really crossing over for me unless it was music videos. So once I started film acting, it was a whole new instrument. It was a whole new school. I just felt like I was starting over, and I wanted to really know what I was doing before putting myself out there, so people didn't like have bad opinions about my like crappy first auditions. So I didn't really start auditioning for the first like 6-8 months. I did maybe a few, and I didn't get anything. God, what was the first role I booked? Oh, all right. Well, the first role I booked, God bless, I hope they don't see this. It was a very independent, very low budget horror, which is like always the case, you know. Oh, of course, it wasn't paid. It was done on like a camera that was like, you know, this big. There was no lighting. The guy that was supposed to be the PA ended up directing. It was special. It won some awards in the horror. I bless them for that. I'll never forget my dad. I showed it to my dad, and he watched it and said, well, you can only go up from here. And I was like, yeah, thanks. So, you know, that was my first. It was pretty bad. So, but I think what's more important than your first role is your second and third. So the second role I booked was actually a supporting role because somebody it was actually like somebody fell through. I wasn't even auditioning when this audition came through, but somebody fell through for a role, and I was recommended by someone in my acting class. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And I mean, all I had to do was like scream and say like 3 lines and die, but it wasn't a feature film. So I was happy. It's actually like, it was like a good quality one. And it was almost 2 years ago. It's not out yet, but it's going to be out soon. But then my third role was a lead in my first sitcom pilot. So it was kind of like, that the steps had. And then, I from there was booking quite a bit. It's all about momentum. And then, fast forward only a year later, I was in the pilot with Mike Starr and Aaron Carter and Sam Levine, Ari Stidman, like a bunch of name actors. So, it was a steep climb, though. Steep climb.
Wow, that is super interesting. I knew nothing about the process of actors booking roles and stuff, so it was super interesting to learn some about how you go around that. For the next question, I wanted to go ahead and ask, what are some tips that you have learned that would be helpful for an aspiring actress to know?
Oh, I love that question. Thank you for asking it. There's no actual way to do this. There is no direct line. I think that's really important for people to know, because I think a lot of acting classes, a lot of like coaches and gurus and stuff make it seem like there is like one way that you end up an actress. And there is actually one way, and it's never giving up. And that's the only way. Practicing your craft, believing in yourself, and never giving up. But everything else is total baloney, because do you know how I booked the biggest role I've ever had, which was the one I'm still currently playing in group. I was asked to come on this project. I'm now working as a producer on it as well, especially since Aaron's passing. The construction worker at a house I own hired me. He was a director in LA. That I would probably not have booked it had I not seen that construction worker who worked with me on a nail commercial that I was on recently before that. And the reason I knew the director in the first place was because I posted a random monologue on a Wednesday in a Facebook group a year before that. So it's absolutely, that doesn't make sense, right? That's how I ended up on TMZ. Like that doesn't make any sense. And God forbid, I would have never, I just want to say very clearly, I would do just about anything to have not ended up on TMZ for that reason. The reason for Aaron's passing, he was a very dear friend of mine, and that is just not what any of us wanted, but just, I'm just saying this for clarity of how irregular the path is, because it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, I remember the way I booked, the reason I booked, what was Paris Fashion Week was from a dingy volunteer fashion week I did on a runway in something that looked like a mess hall. And it was like a charity event. It was absolutely like the most like thrown together thing. And I was just trying to help out, and somebody saw me and liked my walk, connected me with somebody else. I ended up in Paris a month later. So it's always like that though. It's just sticking with it and trusting your gut and never giving up.
Absolutely. I love that response. There was so much great insight in there. It is absolutely so important to never give up. That's something I've learned throughout my journey with music, is that as long as you keep on doing what you love, you'll eventually get to where you want to be.
Yep. And everyone says the only thing that's really true about making it as an actor is everybody makes it. I've heard this a few times, is that like literally everybody makes it that's willing to stick it out. Because some people make it in like a year, and some people make it in 30. And if you stay with it for 30, you'll get there. It might take 30 years, and you have to be okay with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's important, especially something that I've learned when doing sports, is that especially when you're first starting out, sticking with it. It's like I go to a lot of like clinics and everything for like pitching and softball, or just a basketball clinic thing that I do quite a lot. And sometimes it can be hard to stick through, especially when you're first starting out and you go there and there's a lot of people around you that are a lot better than you or know a lot more than you do about the game. And it can be really hard to stick through that. But I think it's really important too, especially since, like you said, you can get there. You just have to be okay with sometimes waiting a bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other part, the flip side to it, is that if you are on your way there and it's not the right thing, it's also okay to stop. Because I don't think that this industry is for everyone. Hell, in 10 years, it might not be for me either. But just not giving up for the wrong reasons. Give up because it sucks all the time, not because it sucks sometimes.
Absolutely. For our next question, we want to know what some of your goals are for you as an actress.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really easy because I have like two. And I've had the same two since I've started. And usually they kind of change with time, but mine have almost not. My first goal is to be a series regular on a sitcom on a streaming service or a network television show in a lead quirky role, which I'm actually kind of close to right now, which is pretty sweet. That is really it for me. I've always wanted to do quirky sitcom, television kind of acting. That's always been where I want to go. I've always been pretty funny naturally, and I always enjoy laughter. I love making people laugh. I've done drama, but I don't really jive with it as much because then I'm like, I don't know. It's a nice release. Like, it can be very cathartic, and horror too. It can be very cathartic. It can be very like fun. I want to spend my life making people laugh. Another one is just to get any sort of regular commercial work, national commercial work. It's super fun. Like, I'd love to be the next Flo. I have an audition this week actually for something kind of similar, where you just like have that reoccurring thing. So that would be really cool. And my ultimate goal is to use any platform I have as an actress to kind of support the messages and to like kind of use that power for good.
It's always so inspiring to see famous people and stuff on social media talking about important issues too, and that's something that is really powerful on Orchid Times. We like to talk about important messages and hot topics, and I really loved that, talking about that too, and good luck on your audition.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm doing it tomorrow. It's kind of a slow season for actors.
For our next question today, I wanted to go ahead and ask, what has been a challenge you have overcome as a female in the film industry, and how did you overcome it?
As a female in the film industry, so this is like a really good question because there's a lot of facets to it, being a female really in any industry. But one thing I do want to point out is that as a white female in the film industry who I haven't always been able-bodied. I used to be very, very disabled, but I am currently able-bodied and cisgendered and white. So I do hold a lot more privilege than many other people who are females in the industry. But as a cisgendered white female, I would say one of the hardest things is the way not all directors, but just the way that like people on the other side of the line. So there's like the people who create the movies, and then there's the people who act in the movies. And I actually do a little bit of production myself. So I think it can be a little bit of a hard time between, directors and like producers and higher ups and stuff with the actors, especially if they're not really like getting what they want, and they can be very harsh and very nasty to actors, as well as like there's like a lot of Me Too things that can happen on set. Thankfully, I've been very, very lucky in that category. I haven't had anything Me Too happen to me, but I've heard quite a bit about it from a lot of my friends. And I've supported some of my friends in speaking up for themselves. Ironically, I had a lot more Me Too issues in my last job as a therapist. While I was working in this center, I was the coordinator of a center for young adults. It was young men, ages like 18 to 26. I was actually in that age range, but I was working, doing a lot of like social emotional skill building, and I was gathering resources, and I ran this entire access center. So during this, pay isn't great. I was doing a lot of modeling on the side and some acting at that point too. But because I was a model actress, people kind of had this idea that I was like easy or something. Like they'd see a picture of me in like a bathing suit that I would do for catalog or something, and just assume that it was like, oh, that girl's easy. So there was this guy who came into work one day, and he did attack me at work in front of my clients, which was like really, really hard for like the clients to see and stuff. And I had to, we had to do this whole call thing, and it was this whole court case because he ended up attacking another woman too, but then she didn't get to, it just turned into a huge nightmare. So that was really hard because getting my voice heard in that situation was hard. And people kind of just looked at me like, oh, well, you're a model. And it's like, no, I'm also a human, and I have words and I have boundaries. And so that was kind of a way that it affected me outside of the industry. And then the other part is that when you're working on production as a female, there's not a lot of females on the production side. There's more than there used to be, but there's just tends to be, there's a lot more female actors than there are producers. So in times that I've been a producer, I've had a really hard time getting heard and being heard as like a valuable member of the team. And I'm not going to pretend I've been in the industry forever. I've been in the industry for less than 2 years. So this is like, I dove right in, I can definitely say that. But I've been talked down to quite a bit. My opinion isn't always heard as much sometimes. I feel like I'm like a little bit left out of like some of the meetings. And however, I do notice that there are some of my male colleagues have been very like, nope, this is not okay. And like really stuck up for me in that matter. And assistant directors tend to be incredibly helpful in that as well.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry to hear that you had to deal with that. It's so disappointing to hear different stories about those type of stuff still happening. So I'm super sorry to hear that. And it's definitely hard to get your voice heard in a male-dominated industry, but thank you for talking about some of your experiences you've had.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for talking about experiences like that and being very open about it, because it gives other females who've had that happen to them feel like they have more of a voice and that they can talk about it as well.
Yeah, I think that a big part of it isn't actually, and it's even happened to me like in service industry jobs as well. It's like when you say, oh, I'm a model, I'm an actress, I've done runway, I'm on television, like people can kind of treat you like you're stupid or whatever the hell. Like people will just kind of treat you different, right? And it's never okay. It doesn't matter if you've never booked a role. Doesn't mean that people can treat you poorly or like you have a voice and that your body is not your own. Because I think a lot of times when it happens, it does happen in the industry, no question. It also happens outside of the industry. And I think that's something to like really be mindful of.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important too, like you said, to acknowledge that it does also happen outside the industry as well. For our next show, we want to kind of switch gears as we're nearing the end of the interview, and we're wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about your company, Olive Media.
Oh, Olive Media. So I started Olive Media a couple of years ago when I was at the very beginning of my journey recovering from anorexia nervosa. So as many models and honestly, many influencers and actors and people are just really, really, really hard on you with your body. And something that I finally had to learn, and I've learned even more recently, is that if everybody else is going to be really hard on my body, I need to be extra nice to it. So always choose recovery over the role. I've learned that the hard way 100 million times. But something that really supported me in my ability to recover from anorexia is through creating a space where I would promote brands and different companies through, commercials and inclusive images so people could see themselves in the media and not have these unrealistic expectations put upon them. Just trying to bring like a lot of realness to that, especially in the age of like influencers and stuff where everything's like hyper edited and there's like waste editors like make you look like this, and it's just insane. So I don't think that it's healthy for anybody to promote these unrealistic beauty expectations. And then if companies are taking a stance against this and they're showcasing more realistic and authentic people, also a lot of diversity, so everything isn't so whitewashed, that we can really make a change in the way that the youth grow up, so they're not growing up trying to look like our TikTok fitness stars, and they can grow up loving who they are.
Absolutely. Such an important message. I know before the interview, I was doing some research about All of Us Media, and your company is so inspiring, and the message is so powerful, and it's just really important. And it's in an area that isn't like really covered in the commercial industry. So I think it's really inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been a lot of work on just really trying to dismantle the whole white skinny privilege concept, and just trying to diversify the way brands showcase fashion and beauty. It's really been a privilege to be able to fight that.
Yeah. For our last question tonight, I wanted to go ahead and ask, how can people follow and support you?
Oh, thank you. So the best way you can really follow and support me, you can follow Olive Chiacchia, and I am on Instagram. And if they have any questions, they can email me as well. At this point, really, all of my, I just kind of go through my personal sources for all of my acting and business endeavors. So really just Olive Chiacchia or ochiacchia@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. If people like Facebook, I guess it's also Olive Chiacchia. So it's all pretty straight across the board.
Thank you for sharing that. I know Instagram is totally so hard. That's also going to be like my New Year's resolution this year.
And I'm totally happy to talk to anybody. If you have any other questions, especially like aspiring actors, just be really happy to share what I've at least learned thus far with anybody who's interested.
Thank you so much for coming on today and talking with us. I had a great time interviewing you, and you had great insight and stuff in the film industry. So thank you so much again.
Thank you guys so much. It was just such a pleasure to be here and to work with you guys, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have in the future. Best of luck with your show. It's been so fun following and watching you guys too.
Oh, thank you.
I'm very, very grateful that you agreed to come on, especially since my grandmother has been, ever since we booked the interview with you, she has not shut up about it. She's so excited. So I'm really happy for her to get to watch us and edit this as well.
That's so sweet. Tell her to come back anytime.
Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope your night is great.
Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Bye.
I loved Olive's interview. She was so amazing, and she had great responses too.
Yeah, I just love her. Like, she's just, as a person, she's just amazing. And that interview it was just perfect. I loved interviewing her.
Absolutely. It was so empowering, and there was a lot of great insight and advice in there too. So today we were going to go ahead and launch a new segment. I am so excited for this one. It's something I've been looking forward to for a long time. We're going to go ahead and start doing a 5-minute current news segment.
So there's a lot of current things going on right now. And I mean, every week there's something new. And we wanted to take 5 minutes just to kind of explain, talk about the current events that are going on right now.
So we wanted to go ahead and start off with talking a little bit about the Greta Thunberg Andrew Tate situation that happened at the end of December. So after a 5-year Twitter ban, Andrew Tate sent a hostile tweet to Greta about his sports car collection, listing all of their emissions and asking her to provide an email address to send a list of their emissions to. And it was just a really rude tweet.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know who Andrew Tate is, basically he's a very, very problematic creator on kind of everywhere. He kind of blew up, like all of his videos kind of blew up on TikTok, but they're just kind of everywhere. He's super problematic, and he says a lot of things that are very rude and offensive to a lot of people. So he's just a very problematic person, and the thing that he's doing right now, this little Twitter fight that's going on, is very disappointing. Luckily, Greta is handling it amazingly. So props to her. She's handling it really well, but he's not very very popular in a good way with a lot of the community, and he likes to brag about what he has and how much money that he does have. And yeah, he's just very problematic and someone that needs to be addressed.
It's really disappointing to see some of the tweets and TikToks and stuff. It's really upsetting to see. I did really love Greta's response, though. It was so good. She said, yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com. I think that is a really great response and perfect for it. And also her tweet really quickly gained traction on Twitter, and it's now one of the top 10 tweets of all time.
Yeah, it gained a lot of traction. And I think that another thing that I kind of wanted to add on to this was sexual assault, because a lot of girls, sexual assault just isn't just a physical thing, and I think a lot of people take it as sexual assault is more of a physical thing, and it's definitely a wide range of physical things, but sexual assault can also be things like catcalling, and a lot of other things. It's an umbrella term basically for a lot of things that you wouldn't really think that would be considered sexual assault, and a lot of people consider Andrew Tate that a lot of girls have come out saying that he sexually assaulted them, and it's been a huge thing. And basically, he's just, from what we've seen, he's just very problematic and very, very rude to a lot of girls.
Absolutely. Also, a lot of people on TikTok have been coming out and sharing their stories about dealing with sexual assault and raising awareness to these issues. And it's super empowering and inspiring to see people using their platforms to speak out. And yeah, it's just been something really great to see going on TikTok.
So yeah, I think that just the whole entire situation that happened, especially coming out of a 5-year ban, you would think that was the first thing he tweeted. So out of coming out of that, so it was pretty disappointing, especially since he doesn't. It seems like he doesn't really care. And from what I've seen, anyway, in my opinion, it seems like he thinks that he's a male, so he's above everyone else because he's rich, and he's above women because he's a male, which is just my observation, and which I think just that whole entire opinion that he has just needs to be shut down because it's not right.
Absolutely. It's really terrible. Another topic I wanted to bring up is that there's also been a lot of really misogynistic trends going around on media lately, like men raiding women and Christmas card pictures where all the females have tape over their mouths, and a lot of others too. And it's really disappointing to see this. It's another example of sexism that you can see on a day-to-day basis. And it's really disappointing to see how far we still have to go in getting equal rights for everyone. And it's super upsetting to see trends like this and people participating in those trends.
Yeah, actually, when we were talking about this, when me and Lily were coming up with this second idea, there's an episode from the show Liv and Maddie, if you guys know what that is. It's a show about two twins, and they're like complete opposites from each other, and they did a whole entire episode on boys in high school and men raiding women. They did a whole episode on that. So, it was in season 1, I think. So if you want to check that out, you can. But yeah, they did the whole thing on it. Which, if big organizations and companies like that are doing stuff that's based around that, it's obviously an issue. Even though that was so long ago, it's that the issue is still here and is still growing pretty largely.
Absolutely. And that's why it's important we use our platforms to speak out on this stuff so people are aware of it too.
And I think that being on Orchid Times, something that me and Lily do is we're not afraid to speak out about things like this, and something that we know needs to happen. So I get that speaking out on it and using your voice can be scary, but something that you at some point should try and overcome and use your voice because it can make a huge difference.
Never be afraid to be loud. That's really important, and it's one of our phrases here on Orchid Times, and one of our mission statements is to be loud. Well, we had a great time doing this 5-minute news segment. It's something that we're going to be adding into every one of our episodes, and I think it's really important to talk about some of this stuff. So if you guys have any topics you want to hear us talk about something, we can send them over, and we can try to incorporate it into future episodes.
There's also just one thing I want to mention really quickly is that in Italy, I I don't remember. I think it's Venice, maybe. They are going underwater right now. Um, and they are expected to be completely underwater in the future. Um, so a lot of people are calling them the new Atlantis. That is, and that city has a lot of history and means a lot to a lot of people. So I just wanted to send my prayers for those people that are going through that right now because it's really difficult, especially with how old the city is.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being on here today. Make sure, if you guys haven't already, watch Moxie. It's our movie for this month. We're going to be doing a discussion on it at the end of the month. So make sure you guys watch it with us because I'm so excited to talk about it some. And make sure to tune into next week. We have an amazing interview with Brigette. She was so cool to talk with, and I'm so excited to show you guys her interview.
Thank you guys so much for watching. And like Lily said, watch Moxie because I said this every single episode since we announced that's the movie we're doing. It's an amazing movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's so good. The actors in it are perfection. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great night.
See you next week. Bye.